Nimdzi live stream. We are doing a pop-up event, this time with someone here in-house, Josef Kubovsky, who is the CEO of Nimdzi Insights. And we had an interesting session planned today talking about hiring salespeople, and kind of one of the standard topics that we like to talk about here at Nimdzi Insights. So it's going to add some value to you guys, but we're going to add value in a different way today, because for those of you that know Josef Kubovsky, you know that he has recently had someone very close to him pass away, and we're going to take today to talk about a lot of the work that she has been doing to preserve the history that she came from here. And by the way, how many languages does she speak, Joseph? 6 languages, I believe. So for those of you that are out there saying, wait a second, doesn't Nimdzi normally talk about language and language services and culture and all of that stuff? Well, we're still talking about it today, but we're talking about it with a twist. Joseph, why don't you give us an intro here? What are we talking about today? Where are we going with this? Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, by the way. I think this is the first time that you've done one of these with me, is it not?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. Good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are, whatever you do. Thanks, Tucker, for having me and for the idea. It was definitely your idea to start talking about my grand aunt, who is very connected to our industry, language industry, because she spoke 6 languages. But she was also a certified tester for certified sworn translators. She actually tested sworn translators between Slovakian and Swedish. And she did her last test at her age of 82. So I think
she wasn't much of an underachiever, is what you're saying.
No,
she was
was not
busy till the last days. So Swedish, Slovakian, what other languages did she speak?
She was based in Slovakia. We're going to speak about a town in the heart of Slovakia called Levoca. It's a historical town, but I'll tell you more later. But her great-grandparents moved there from Hungary, so they spoke at home Hungarian. So that's why she spoke Hungarian. But in the old times, in Czechoslovakia, starting 1918, people would have to study at the grammar school or high school, you would call it in English, 2 foreign languages. So she studied German and French, other than Latin, of course, because then when you wanted to go to the university, you also needed to know Latin. So these are the languages. And as a modern person living in Sweden for some time, she had to speak English. So there we go, the 6 languages. But the exciting part is that it was just natural for my great grandparents to speak multiple languages. So they were fans of numbers. So she was a teacher of mathematics. And I would actually connect her very much close to you, Tucker, because you're also a number person, very much interested in the data and what's going on. But you are in the language industry, right?
I am. Last time I checked, I am. Despite multiple escape attempts, I'm still here.
Excellent. But let me give you the story. Why do I want to do this, and why do I find it important to talk about her? And I just want to say thanks for everyone who's joining and for all the support of my close and far family. Well, my grand aunt was always very depressed that she was one of the very few people who survived the World War II and was not taken to a concentration camp with the rest of her family. And a large number of people, I'm going to talk about it a little later, but large amount of people from her town. There were very few people who survived. And she dedicated at least the last part of her life to make sure that the names of these people don't disappear. So she wrote a book. The book is called Names, Mena in Slovakian. And I want to share the story here. I want to shout it to the world because I didn't manage to do it when she was alive, unfortunately. And I still want to share it out there. And I want to give a little bit of a story in the background story of why is it good and why should you know about it?
Awesome. Well, better late than never. Better late than never.
Exactly.
So
exactly. What I managed to do
Where
What I managed to do, though, is that her brother was a famous doctor, my grandfather, and he definitely deserved a place in Wikipedia because he found a couple of um, cures for different type of medicines. But I won't spend too much time on that. But I did manage to do that on time when he was alive. I managed to generate the Wikipedia page for him.
All right.
Sorry, Tuck.
Well, Renato's been asking you to generate a Wikipedia page for him. So now that you're our expert. Let's.
Right.
Where the heck is this place? This little town in Slovakia.
So we're talking about Czechoslovakia in the 1940s, and specifically this location is Slovakia, and this is next to the Carpathian Mountains, and the town is called Levoca. The interesting story about this town is that it is actually located on the path, not the Silk Road, but the Path Road. At this time, when they were traveling and transporting most of the Baltic productions and stuff over to Europe. So that's why that was very important location starting 12th or 13th century, where this would be a secure place for all of the businessmen that were traveling from the Baltics and bringing the jewelries to Europe.
So lots of history. This is one thing that always just baffles me: how much history is in these places. Coming from, I thought the town that I grew up in was 150 years old, right? So hearing about this is fascinating to me.
Yeah, and thanks. That's totally true. One of the things that is just to let you know, I'm half Czech, half Slovak. I'm a typical Czechoslovakian during the 1990s, where someone here in our countries decided, oh, we also want to be in the government, but there's not a room. Let's make two countries. So they did two countries, and those people who are just like me, and there's quite a few of us who are Czechoslovakians, they were told, hey, we still haven't decided whether this belongs to Slovakia or Czech Republic, so why don't you go and relocate your place there? It's going to be a little Czechoslovakia for you. So good joke, but sadly enough, that's where we are.
Well, good joke. It would be a better joke if it wasn't for the subject that we're talking about today, with the history of the Jews here. So your grandmother was a Jew?
Exactly. So she comes from the Jewish community based in Levoca, and this is exactly the main topic, that most of the Jewish community was murdered and taken into concentration camp during 1942, and the latest ones were still murdered in 1944.
So double whammy. So let me get this straight. Let me make sure that I'm following along here, because you've sent me a bunch of links. So your grandmother was a Jew growing up and living in Levoca, and which underwent two periods of mass incarceration and extermination for Holocaust, essentially. And in the later years of her life, she has dedicated a significant chunk of time to documenting that experience and making sure that those victims were not forgotten. Did I?
Exactly.
Okay, so
exactly.
I am understanding this correctly. Wow. Very cool. What's this video you got for me here?
I wanted to give you a little bit of an understanding of what place are we talking about, so that you also get the visual contact with the spot. So if you can play the video so that we understand where we are and how does it look like.
Okay, yeah, let's check this out here. Oh, I guess it helps if I start it from the beginning.
This I'm giving up this whole eyes on me. Call it out like a family. Stood up at my time, get it right.
I'm not
Wow.
sure if this is the Levoca video, Tucker.
Oh, Lord. Was that the wrong video?
I think
It
so.
was a very pretty video.
But if you type Levoca, I think it will pop up. So if you don't mind just Googling it or searching for me on, there you go.
This one?
Yeah.
This is not the link you sent me, for the record. And besides, this might get deleted anyways. YouTube doesn't like it.
Slovakia is Levoca,
When we play
formerly
these things.
Levoca. As early as 1317, the city became a free royal town with numerous privileges. Kazhal Gate is the most beautiful of the 3 well-preserved city gates. And the 2.5-kilometer-long city wall once contained 15 bastions. Levoca eventually became the capital of the region, occupied by the Zipser Saxons.
I would say...
I'm just realizing, Joseph, this video is 9 minutes long.
Yeah. But I think this gives us already a good picture about how ancient this town is.
Yeah.
And what was the concentration of it.
There's some history there.
And I would like to, maybe if you could share the link that I gave you on the wiki or the encyclopedia of Jewish community, and if you could scroll down, not to the people that were murdered, but all the way down to the business that was happening in the town before the World War. And you're going to see that there was a huge community, right? You can see that out of all the groceries, 2/3, more than 2/3 was actually provided by the Jewish people, right? The butchers, all clothing, general stores, everything. There was a huge community. Actually, in that time, before the World War II, there was 500 people living in the city, right? Please realize that this is an Asian town, right? They are all living in small houses located in the center of the town and things like that. The point that I want to say here, that together with the city center, you would also have the surroundings of the town, where you would have another 500 people living in the town. And to get to the point of the book, if you scroll up for me, Tucker, and we are going to see what happened in 1948 after World War II versus 1938, where people actually moved there.
Okay. So where am I scrolling to?
Just a little lower, and there's the first table that shows us that in 1936, in 1930, there was 600 people, right? At the beginning of what we call the First Republic, after the Austro-Hungarian Empire has stopped, and we opened the Czechoslovakia as a republic, there was almost 700 people living. And then during the World War, there were, people were escaping, of course. And in 1940, there was 500 people, and most of them were murdered. The book shows that the people that were murdered in the surroundings of the town is over 900 and taken into concentration camp. So the book, once again,
so that's people even from outside the city, or from everywhere.
Yeah.
And so what we're looking at right now, what is this that we're looking at?
So this is a Jewish community encyclopedia produced by Yad Yashim, as you can see here. It's basically, I hope that my friend Anna, who lives in New York and doing a similar job for the New York community and trying to help them out to find out where are my relatives from and where do I actually come from. These are the different type of communities of Jewish people that are helping the different families to figure out where did my family come from, right? Or who from my family was murdered or died where, and so on. So this is basically an encyclopedia that's helping us to figure out where do we come from and where do we belong.
Okay. Thank you. I was wondering because this isn't what your aunt has put together, right?
No, it's not. It's not. This is just to give you an idea about the numbers and the dates there.
Also, we have a comment here. It says, you should be objective since you are an entity serving all the translation industry from all over the world. So make sure to be objective here, Joseph. I'm not sure what we've said that hasn't been objective, but yeah. For the record, the Holocaust happened.
Okay.
DM me if you have a problem with that.
Okay. So, perfect. So this is the first part. Maybe to be a little bit more objective, let me give you another information that you're going to find in the book, and that is the age of the different people that were murdered in the town.
Okay.
So we start from people who were only 2 months old.
Is it still on the same screen here? Or are you just...
No, it's not. It's in the book. And as my aunt was 96 when she died last week or 2 weeks ago, we don't have an online version. So I'll be sharing some print screens later with anyone who's interested. So we're talking of babies of 2 months old to people like my great-grand aunt here, who was taken to a concentration camp in her age of 93 years. And of course, I have no idea about how long did she survive. But I do have an information about my great-grand uncle, who used to be a cabinet maker, which at that time was a really hard work to do, right? A very manual work. And he died to extreme exhaustion after 3 months. So just to give you an understanding of how these people felt and what was going on. And I think one of the most important impact on my great-grand aunt life mission, if I may call it this way, is that her brother, as they call him, Otičko or Otto in English, was taken into concentration camp with his parents, because they were not how do you call it? It's you don't have the same mother. There's two mothers, but the same father.
Oh,
You call it in
half,
English?
just
Doesn't matter.
half brother, half brother, step brother. I don't know. I always get confused about those two. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, he was taken to the concentration camp with his parents. So this was probably the closest person to Miriam, my grand aunt. So that to give you an insight about what was she focusing, and now maybe we can talk a little bit about the methodology of collecting all the names. So first of all, of course, she was using all the libraries and visiting the town hall, but also going around the different locations of the relatives that still survived, who were not directly connected or who were not, children, but aunts or simply indirect relatives of those who were murdered, and collecting all those names after a couple of dozens years.
So this was just like literally just like knocking on doors, asking for stories, like hunting people down,
Exactly.
kind of situation here.
Exactly.
Wow. Lots of work. Let's, we have this
So
to move us along here.
I already started to talk a little bit about our family and started sharing the experience to kind of get a little bit into the moment and sense what was going on at that time. I already said that although it was typical for my family members to speak multiple languages, and I think in our region, in the Central Europe, it is actually quite typical to speak multiple languages still, but they were interested in numbers. So my great-grandfather was an accountant, And because the German community in town still needed accounting, they decided to pull him back from the transport to the concentration camp. So they pulled them all back and they kept them in town back in 1942, if I'm not mistaken. And so they could stay there. But then his brother actually returned back from, I don't know, do you call in English partisans as well? Those who fight, who are not official army, but they fight in the forest with the soldiers, partisans.
We have many names.
Basically, okay.
We have,
it's not a government.
I think of militia. Militias? Like local militia is a loaded word, though. Here
it wouldn't be different, but it doesn't matter. So it was basically a community of people who put their forces together and they started fighting against the Nazis back then.
Got it.
So he returned back knowing that there was another transport going to happen, and he pulled the family out of the town. So the parents of my grandfather and my grand-aunt, and they escaped to the forest. And I wanted to share the picture there, Tucker, if you could.
Yep.
And if you scroll a little bit down, you're going to see that there are quite high mountains, over 3,000 meters. I don't know how much that is in inches. Tucker, 3,000 meters.
This is just
how high is that?
3,000. It's high.
Okay.
It's high.
So this is where they've been hiding back in 1944 for some time, digging holes in the ground in the forest and hiding themselves in it. Luckily, the Nazis didn't find them, although they were a couple of times standing right on the roof of their cave, let's call it.
Wow.
What is very interesting to say, though, is that there has been this family who's been risking their lives, although they didn't have to. Like farmers who lived right in the forest, who had their mill close to where my family was hiding. And these people literally saved their lives by giving them food constantly and by hiding them during the deepest winter. We're talking not Siberia here, but we're still talking good -10, -20 degrees Celsius.
Sure.
So this family is going to be getting a prize from Slovakian president this autumn and from the Embassy of Israel for officially supporting people in extreme life situation and for saving people taken into concentration camps. Nice. So once again, it may sound like I'm standing out here to tell a short story about my family and my aunt, but as you can see, this definitely has a broader impact, nationwide and international-wide. So without those people, of course, it wouldn't be possible to survive. So the shout out doesn't go only to those who survived, but especially to those who helped these people to stay there.
Awesome. I'm speechless just because I mean, normally I dominate these live streams just because I have so much to say about so many different things, but this isn't, this is well, first of all, this is a subject that deserves a certain amount of reverence, and reverence is not something that I've known for. So I'm trying to keep my mouth shut, but I'm just amazed at like these. You hear these stories, and it's very, knowing you, and it's like, oh, this isn't actual family members. This isn't, it's very different talking to you than it is watching the very historically accurate documentary Inglourious Bastards, right? Right? It's like actually.
Sure. And I apologize if I'm kind of speaking from my memories instead of really doing a proper research about the data and the numbers. And
this isn't a presentation. This is a podcast.
Exactly. This is not a presentation. This is something that I always wanted to do. I wasn't on time with delivering it, and I didn't want to wait anymore and just shout it out there. I would say what is important for us to keep in mind, most importantly, is the message that my grand aunt was always kind of putting in all of her books. By the way, there's a second book she wrote, which is called For Freedom.
Okay.
And that in a mathematical order speaks about the history of the Jewish nation.
In a mathematical order.
Exactly. That's how she specifically called it. So you're going to find, the very specific dates, what happened when, and including the math, and really putting not those topics that we like to speak about, but those that have practical ground, that have the real insights in the story. So this is the second book she wrote, she put together.
I think I'd like your end.
And what I wanted to say is that, the most important message, and I would even say the final takeaway from my grand aunt, would be that the human life is more important than anything else, right? And we take it as obvious these days. We do in Europe, we do it in the US, we do it in some of the Asian countries. But is it really the case? Do all of us realize the importance of that? And I would just say one more message that she always wanted to share with everyone. It's not only about the human life, it's about the human dignity, and it's about the human equality, right? So all of us having the right to say whatever we like, taking circumstances and what's going to happen to you, but respecting the right for the others to speak about.
Hear, hear. Well, this has been, I think this is a lovely tribute to the work that your aunt has been doing. Talk to me a little bit about, if anyone's watching this and wants to find more information, what can they do? What should they do? Where should they go? What are some of the greatest resources available out there?
Sure. So there is, and I hope we have some people from the Jewish community in Košice, which is the biggest town now in eastern Slovakia, good friends of ours who definitely have good amount of these books and can distribute and share, or just feel free to reach out to me. I can simplify my email. You all know that we're part of Nimdzi, so my email is joseph@nimdzi.com.
Easy breezy.
And I'll be happy to share it with you.
Well, very good. Anything else before we wrap this up, Joseph? Or can I start?
I think I said everything I wanted to say.
Yeah, so, I think this is nice. Thank you so much, Joseph, for coming on. I know when we talked about this earlier, it was like, oh, let's go talk about it. Let's get the message out there. And this recording is going to live on in perpetuity on all the different platforms. So this is, if you're watching this, like I said when we started this, we're doing something a little bit different today. Normally we don't talk about such things. Normally we're more focused on the language services, localization, globalization, business, all serious talk and stuff like that. But sometimes it's important to sit back and just kind of remember that this is what it's all about, right? Human life, respecting human dignity. And I don't know, I can only speak for myself, but it kind of helps me to put my life in perspective a little bit. The fact that I didn't have childcare yesterday suddenly becomes much less life-altering. Right?
Exactly. I think from all of the rush that we all live in and not spending enough time with our families, with our beloveds, there is time to sit down and realize that things can be much more difficult, and we should be happy for what we have.
Agreed. Well, Joseph, go spend some time with your family. Thank you so much for doing this with me, and we will talk to you soon. For all of you out there, we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. And thanks for the idea, Tucker.